had never healed was that I always read and heard stories about people who didn't look like me, people who lived in other bodies. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm not a written about people, if I'm not a storied people, am I a people? And so I searched, and I searched, and I searched, and I realized that there is such a rich and dynamic history of queer and trans people in Canada, in Africa, in the Caribbean, and I thought this isn't being shared enough.
My name is Rodney DeVerlis. I'm the Vice President Equity for the Ryerson Students Union, which is the central students union here at Ryerson University. I was approached by Lali in the fall with a concept and an idea to do this event, and I gladly joined on board. We at the Students Union, we represent all 24,000 students here at Ryerson, and many of which are black, racialized students, and many of which are queer students. And we really strive to create spaces to talk about struggles and the way that, you know, racism, sexism, queerphobia, and different forms of oppression affect students, but affect community members.
Founded by 3 Jamaicans and a Grenadian, 3 lesbians and a gay man, around a kitchen table, West End, Toronto. I'm calling names: Michaela Silvera, writer; Stephanie Martin, artist. Went on to found Sister Vision Press, Canada's first black woman and women of color press. Calling names: Debbie Douglas, E.D. Orokasi, and Douglas Stewart, human rights and equity consultant. Created what they needed: a space for connection and support, a space for black and West Indian. We were old school then, clearly not yet Caribbean, fully. Lesbian and gays, a space for strategizing to challenge homophobia and heterosexism we found within black communities, the racism we experienced within mainstream white gay community, and the gizms that played out between us. It was 1983-84.
My name is Courtney McFarlane, and today on Queering Black History, I talked a little bit about my history of activism and community involvement in black queer organizing in Toronto.
My name is Cyrus Marcus-Ware, and I was presenting today about black trans history in Toronto, black trans organizing in a broader sense. I was talking about a little bit about the history of black trans people in starting the gay liberation movement, because it was black trans people, black trans women in specifically, who started the Compton's Cafeteria Riot in 1966, the Stonewall Riot in 1969, upon which you know, the Pride Festival is held on that weekend and anniversary. One of the first people to ever get sex reassignment surgery in North America was a black trans woman named Elisa Newton in 1966. And then, yeah, just thinking about what it means to develop an actual archive of black trans history within Toronto, within trans organizing, black queer organizing, thinking about some of the great stuff that's happened here in Toronto related to, you know, trans people involved in Blockorama, trans people starting the first trans parenting course in North America, developing the first sexual health resource for trans men who have sex with men in the world. That all happened by black trans people right here out of Toronto.
So some years ago, in an extremely exuberant mood, I wrote that Toronto was one of the best places to witness black queer diaspora in all its forcefulness. My claim was buttressed by the now defunct GLAAD, gays and lesbians of African descent, marching in the Pride Parade, Jamia Zuberi's Palau, and Blackness Yes Block Hole Party. Those 3 events or happenings signal a particular kind of black political outness and a taking up of space by black queers in Toronto, and thus Canada, that marked a new time for black queer life in this city and country.
My name is Patrice Anderson. I represent the AIDS community of Durham region. It's really important that as black people we know about our history, first of all, in the LGBTQ community. And like the panelists have said, there aren't any archives that are available, and it helps me in my work as well to find out, you know, where did we come from, where are we going, and where we're gonna end up.
There's been a lot of people ahead of us paving the way for us to be able to stand here today, embracing our identities. The least we could do at this point, with all the access that we have to archiving and documenting and making sure that our history is known.
Simon and Coley, as I came to learn, was arrested for his anti-apartheid activism and spent 4 years in jail. He was openly queer during that period. He went on to ensure that in South Africa, the rights of the LGBT community were enshrined in the Constitution, and so we now have one country in Africa that ensures that gays and lesbians, trans, queer, bi community members have human rights protection.
My talk was really about how do we insert the story of continental Africans who are here in Canada and globally working together into the story of Black queer organizing. And I really felt that it often gets left out when it was very much an integral part of a lot of the organizing that was happening here in the Black community.
Having been at all of the pride, tomfoolery, fuckery that's been going on, to be at Queering Black History Month has been refreshing and rejuvenating. It reminds me that I'm not crazy, quite frankly, where I get to speak with other people about the realities of racism in Toronto queer communities.
I came to Toronto in 1981, so it was really important for me to remember, to come back and remember people that were in the room, people that weren't necessarily in the room. But I think for me, as a white, butch, dyke activist, what's most important for me is to be in these spaces to learn, and to continue to learn, and to be reminded about how much more I have to learn, because that's my personal celebration.
I'll say tonight was historical, because it was the first time a university grappled and talked bluntly and eloquently and honestly about our lives. Our lives that for so long have been considered problematic. You know, we have been social problems for so long. And amidst the racism and the homophobia and the transphobia, there was, you know, a really bright and beautiful light shone on our lives.